conference will now be recorded.
We'll start the commission meeting off with a flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was a private comment
Okay.
From the newspaper about the closed session for security purposes.
Oh, okay, all righty. We do have some public in here today. Do we have anything that anybody would like to speak about on the public forum?
I'm not sure if you'd like me to speak now. I spoke with Ms. Olmsted and I asked her to put me on the agenda as part of the CUP, but I can do that now or later. I wasn't sure.
Sharon's
on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Sharon's mentioned it, so, yeah.
Okay,
So
thank you.
You'll be on that whenever we have that, which will be first thing
Okay,
after we
thank
get
you.
done administrative business and stuff. So, nobody's in here is gonna speak unless, nobody else, okay? So, we'll move on to agenda approval. Does anybody have anything to add today? Make any changes?
Everything we got is full commission comments up there.
Okay.
Lots of questions with no real answers.
Dave?
Deal with the health department, Chris swear in something.
I don't believe that's an agenda item.
Okay.
Do you have something today, or are you just here to?
She needs to be sworn in as public health officer.
Oh.
Commissioner Crowfoot requested it be done in the commission meeting, so
Okay.
that's why she's here.
Okay. Okay.
So I was just going to do that first thing after you
Okay.
get ready to move forward
All
with the
right.
meeting.
Good enough.
I'm not sure if county councilor needs time on the agenda.
Okay.
It's already built in.
So if there's no agenda approval besides that, we'll, you have all the administrative business, then you want to take care of it first, or you want to just do the swearing in?
That's up to you. I was just planning it to be like normal, to do the administrative
Okay.
as normal, but if you want to make a change, that's up to you.
Well, she's here. If you're ready, you've got everything ready.
Right, I was gonna do that first on
Okay.
administrative.
Okay.
If,
On administrative business? Okay.
yeah.
Well, let's do that then. That'll be the first swearing in of our new health department director. Make it legal so she can take care of actions and things that she has in her department, so.
Okay, Krista had come in before and we had already done the swearing in for the health department director portion of the position, but we need an oath specific to the public health officer as well, and so that's what we're doing now.
Okay.
And so I think I'll just come over there to that. Okay. Sorry. Right back, yeah. Just there's space here. Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
You raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
of public health officer,
of public health officer.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Okay? Then
Cool.
I'll
Good
go
deal.
ahead and have you sign right here.
Good deal. And you've had this other swearing in earlier this morning.
Yes. Actually, it was last week, I think.
Oh, okay.
She came in and took care of some things, so that there wasn't quite so much to do today, so.
Been lots of paperwork today.
Yeah, it's a settling in sort of day, right?
Well, I am.
Well, thank you for coming in, Krista.
Thank you.
And
Congratulations on the new position.
Thank you.
and
Good luck.
obvious. Do not be scared to contact us and keep us in touch with what's going on.
All right.
Thank you.
Will do, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Okay.
Administrative business, Tina, it's all yours.
All right. In your packet, I did give you information, which was that you had requested last time about cereal malt beverage, hours of operation, and then also our county resolutions for those operating out in the county. And so the only restriction that we have, according to the information here, is if it's within the county, that on Sundays, we don't allow sales before noon, so it's between 12 and 8, and the statute allows from 9 to 8.
And the 4 holidays there?
Those, we're not restricting on any holidays.
The only holiday is Easter.
Says
Right,
except
Easter, sorry,
Easter.
excuse me,
Easter.
Easter Sunday. No sales are allowed on Easter Sunday.
Okay.
And so other jurisdictions may have different restrictions, but those are the county.
That's the counties. Okay.
And if you want to make any changes to that, really the only thing you could change would be to allow Sunday sales to begin earlier.
Yeah.
But that's the only change I believe you could make.
You can make it more restrictive,
Yes.
though.
Right, if you wanted to.
Was that, I want to thank you because that's, even though that's, each city might have different jurisdictions underneath the cities, but.
Right, they may have their own
Yeah.
more stringent
Restricted.
regulations.
Thank you very much, because I hadn't seen it for, well, probably since I signed it last time, but a few years. So, does that
Okay.
help everybody else? Hope so.
All right, so
Thank you,
that was,
Tina.
you're welcome, that was just an informational item.
Yeah.
I do have the minutes from December 13th.
Do I hear a motion on December
Motion to
13th?
approve December 13th.
Do I hear any corrections? Do I hear a second?
Second?
Second by Kent Becker, motion by Jonah. All those in favor of December 13th as it presented, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Okay. We do have some change orders today.
I'm sure I'll sign that, this one in there, I think. That's the way it's got it.
And anyone in the room, if you're wishing to comment today, registration is required, so you would need to put your information on the sheet on the podium.
Still waiting.
When you were looking at your agenda, I should have mentioned, ambulance department has canceled this week. We do have one early check, and it's actually a pretty large one, $267,522. And that is for that bridge replacement on Goldenrod. And we're paying it ahead of payday because we will receive that reimbursement for a portion of the cost from KDOT. I would like to get that submitted as soon as possible, so.
Everybody okay with that? Good. Did you hear a motion?
I move to make the early check payment of $267,550.
522.
522.
Second.
Second by Kent Becker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Just as another piece of information, we are going to have an amended budget for 2021. Your budget hearing will be on December 30th, right before the payday meeting. And it really, the only fund I am amending is the special alcohol fund. That's a pass-through, but when the budget was prepared, there was not enough put in the expenditures. They underestimated the income and expenditures, and so we will be able to budget if we don't hold that hearing. And I'm tracking all the other departments and funds, and if we have to reclassify anything, then we would do that on the general fund. So all the other funds, we're going with the original budget.
Two more buckets.
Yeah. One. 30.
Yeah.
Then it'll get a lot lighter.
Yeah. We got a lot of trees down now. Cut some paper.
Thank you. At some point, I need you to be the judges for our coloring contest. So you can do that before you leave. We don't have to
I'm
do it
not
right
qualified.
now. But we did have several submitted for each age group, so we're gonna need you to take care of choosing those
I
winners
think
before
we
you
need
leave.
to allow these kind of people to get their business done
Yeah.
first before we, start screaming at each other on which ones we think.
Okay,
That
sounds
could be
good.
a- that could
So
be an
just-
argument.
I know.
And really, I just had some items for future discussion on here, just for you to keep on your radar, as the storage and then the KAC special election that's coming up, how you want to vote on that. And you still have some time on that, so just keep it on your radar.
All righty. You ready to
And
move
that's
on?
all I have on
You're
administrative for
ready to
right
move
now.
on?
Yes.
Next on the agenda is planning and zoning, Sharon Olmsted, which is here.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, it is. I have some packets to hand out, and I apologize.
why don't you go ahead and read it to us?
The paper clips,
that
sorry,
enough?
if I can walk around. No. The paper clips are not doing so well there.
You mind reading that to us?
I sure can.
It's already in the.
How many days do you need?
I kind of went through it.
This mirrors what's in the,
Yes, that is the information that was sent to you in your packets, as well as the addition of a memo from Mr. Edwards and Ms. Paper.
Oh, they're popping right off. Just
Yeah, I was trying to find some clips before I left the office, but we're out. Sorry about that. Okay, and those two attorney memos are in the very back of the packet. The last two documents. I'll start with just an overview. This is a case that went to case PC 21-03. And this case went to the Planning Commission on December 2nd. And that hearing was public noticed in the official county newspaper on November the 10th. And notification letters were sent to neighboring properties within 1,000 feet on November 9th. The Planning Commission recommended by an 8-to-1 vote approval of case PC 21-03 with conditions. And would you like for me to go over the specifics of, this is a CUP application filed by Harmony Towers LLC on behalf of Greg and Mitch LLC, and it's located on Highway 56, just north of Highway 56 and west of Remington. There were no protest petitions filed, state, in the clerk's office.
Okay. Brad, do you have anything to state here before?
No, none. It depends upon the specific questions, if any.
Okay.
No, I don't. I've had the opportunity to see all of the submissions, review all of that, and some independent inquiry of it, talk with Sharon, so.
Okay.
There's one thing I went over, and it was the ability to be on a tower.
To co-locate.
By using the closest reasonable tower, right? Unless certain situations weren't. It couldn't be allowed, or I was just going through and I was trying to figure out, as long as that had been decided, it wasn't just a financial deal, it was something that couldn't be achieved with another tower, or what resolves that issue, I guess.
So are you referring to something in the staff report or to specifically? There's,
Remember where I saw it, and
so very candidly, there's a state statute, KSA 66-2019, that deals with the siting and governance of communication towers. And there is some discussion as to whether those issues in that state statute are only applicable to public rights of way, or whether portions of that statute also apply to private properties. So if you are using, it depends on which side of that interpretation as to whether you feel the ability to co-locate or the service area affects your determination on this matter.
Let you continue your conversation.
I'm trying to find what exactly, it was the only one thing that I just didn't fully see that.
Do you know which document that was on that you were talking about, Jonah?
I'm trying to find it. I read through.
Right.
It's a lot to remember
So-
where it's at. I should have taken
Absolutely.
note. But it was,
Probably somewhere starting at the bottom of page 2 of the outline you were given, all of the different conditional use criteria.
okay.
Several of them address generally what you were referring to.
There it is. Item number C on page 2 of the second pack.
Which is the
Which
staff
is-
report.
Staff report.
Relevancy excerpts of Marion County zoning regulations. Yeah, right on. You knew what I was talking about. Yes.
You're talking about
One of the many, many pages.
the highlighted page.
Yeah, there's a
That's it.
Sharon, it's behind you. It's not on your staff report. It's
Okay.
some other documentation that he's talking about.
Yeah, so it's
Oh,
item number
okay.
C, about the middle of the
Does that
page.
help?
No new commercial telecommunication tower location shall be approved unless, and it says, you know, in the highlighted area there. I just needed to know what, that item was covered, because obviously there's another tower nearby. So just making sure that, that was addressed.
It depends on your interpretation of KSA 66-2019.
Okay. Well, I mean, just to the,
So,
somebody that doesn't climb the tower, doesn't know anything about the tower. I see the tower from the road. What shows that this one is needed over the other?
so there is the feeling that this is from our regulations, from the county zoning regulations, and Article 19 that deals with conditional use permits. And there's a possibility that is outdated or overridden by state statute.
Okay.
The KSA reference, that goes back to 2016. There's been no case law on this. There's no Attorney General's opinion that I'm aware
Okay. Does anybody, other commissioners have questions?
Well, I may have missed it, but, you know, we got a tower going in right beside another tower. What enhancements is that providing over a tower that's already there? When I understand this, the tower that's already there has the ability to handle more than what's on it right now. That's the question in my mind. And what is the benefit to the county? And then we have to also look at from, you know, safety, welfare, and of the citizens of the county too.
That's a good question, and it's a bit of a complex answer. We have to consider these conditional use permits
Right.
based on the parcel that it's on, the
Criteria.
land use for that specific piece of property.
So is there a representative here from the, can they answer that question?
Yes.
Go. My name's Linda Kafer.
Oh, sorry, we're gonna have to make sure you can be heard on the electronic meeting.
My name is Linda Kafer, and I represent Harmony Towers as the applicant. And so Sharon's right, there's some complication to it because of 2019, the statute that was enacted 5 years ago. But I'm going to start by saying the benefit is something that your legislature, or that we've elected, our representatives, they already made a decision on a statewide basis that there was a benefit to our state and the people in this county as well to getting these towers built in a way that didn't have obstacles placed in front of them. Because that was a problem that was being experienced all over the state. Entities that would come in and object so that a new tower couldn't be built, so that you had to be on their tower at whatever price they wanted to charge. So this is, you can see it as kind of a competitive injection into the system to make sure that on a statewide basis, they said that another tower could come in, and even if a business decision was made by, in this case, AT&T, that it was more beneficial to go on the second tower instead of the first one and have it built, then they didn't want the local zoning authorities rejudging that business decision. So, you know, like it or not, a lot of your power was taken away in that regard, and that decision was made by the legislature and the representatives. So, you know, a benefit keeps the cost down. You know, some of these AT&T and other carriers.
So you be leasing that tower to AT&T?
Correct. And of course, you maintain your right. If the SBA tower becomes empty, I think you have an ordinance that allows you to make sure it's taken down and you don't have an empty tower sitting out there. But the law, the 2019 law that does apply to private land, it's not restricted to just public right-of-ways. It doesn't allow you to redetermine or judge the business decision that was made to put the second tower out.
So you stated it would be a benefit to Marion County. AT&T is not served Marion County. Vast parts of this county AT&T phones will not work. So what you're saying is this is going to provide coverage for the whole county.
Well, what I'm saying is, first, the state legislature already determined it was an overall benefit.
Yeah.
They took that away, at least in that regard.
I mean, I'd like to see if someone's come to this county that the county gets served.
I understand. I've driven, and so I know what happens to my service when I get in. But I think that is the idea is that the goal is that it doesn't just have to be AT&T on the tower.
Right.
There are other carriers who can come.
Right. It was just referring to them.
Right. And so that we do improve broadband and cell service throughout the rural areas of the state. And that's the goal of 2019 statute.
So this is just two companies competing against each other. What this is free enterprise. It's kind of what it boils down to.
That's one aspect of
I
it,
mean,
yes.
the two grocery stores in town.
You can charge as much as you want if
Yeah.
people have to eat and
Two
you're the only
filling
game in
stations,
town.
yeah.
And the legislature stepped in and said, we have no control.
Right.
So that makes all the other questions moot.
Yeah,
So
it
you have
does.
one question to answer. And if you answer it one way, this whole situation's decided. If you answer the other way, then you can go back and look at these issues that are brought up. Am I right? So you really need to first answer one question. Does state statute cover public and private property? If that's the case, then it's done. There's no other questions. And our staff has said that it does. And that's what the planning commission said it does. So unless the county commission says otherwise, it's decided. So really answer that question first and then save a lot of time arguing other questions that may not apply.
And maybe I'm just not grasping it, but I'm not seeing anybody addressing my question.
That's because it's new. Unless you decide one way or the other on the state statute application.
So basically we don't have to have a CUP or planning and zoning, and none of this. They could just automatically come in and do whatever they want.
Not exactly.
So we're not just at no power though. If we have rules and regs, and they need to, I don't want to oppose anybody from coming to Marion County. Not my thing. But if we have rules in place, we need to abide by them. And if that exists and there's a usable tower, how is that tower not usable? And then I don't have an issue.
And I don't know if you're asking her or me on.
Anybody that can answer my question.
Well, it's like Dave said, the state took that away from us.
Yeah, you can bang your head against the wall.
The only thing we can determine is whether it applies to public or private or both. And that's basically always up to interpretation, correct, Brad?
Yeah, well,
Yes and no?
yes and no. I mean, it depends on how you read it, and we have yet to have anybody fully litigate that, but it's been reasonably clear in terms of what their intent was. So, it seems to be.
the statute is applicable, it is adopted for the entire state, public and private land. And, you know, plain reading of the statute shows that. There are sections within the statute that talk about the rights of public right-of-way, you know, what you can do in regards to public right-of-ways that you have. They're not trying to tell you what you can do on property that you actually own as the government. So there are some sections that talk about public right-of-way. But the statute overall, the intent is to do this for the state, and it says that specifically in the statute.
Any further questions for her?
I'm all for competition and, you know, free market and all that, but I know that this is about a CUP and not about whether we turn a profit on a company, or it's not about that. It's about staying to the rule.
And this is all on private land,
Yes.
so, I mean, both of them are.
I believe SBS is also, but I know Harmony is on private land. There's a contract with the landowner about reclamation and cleaning up and everything.
It's all ag zone, all of it except for the tower sit, right?
Commissioner Gary, if I may, my name is Mike Knuckles. I also work with Harmony, and I guess I would just put it to you.
State your name
Oh,
again.
sorry, Michael J. Knuckles with Harmony Tower, representing Harmony Tower. What I was going to point out was, let's say say you're a business owner. Let's say you only have one person you can lease your storefront from versus multiple options. If you've ever been in a landlord-tenant dispute, you understand the tenant usually has very little leverage in that situation. And so I don't believe, and I've been in telecommunications since 1998, I don't believe that AT&T wants to build another tower next to an existing tower unless there were an extreme situation. And I think that's where they found themselves. And I've seen this sort of firsthand over the years because I've filled out a lot of what you call co-location applications where carriers like AT&T and Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, they're trying to modify something on one of these towers owned by a third party. So there's a new antenna that's come out. The radio frequency engineers want to put the new antenna on the tower. Or they want to tweak it a little bit. They want to drop it, raise it. Every time they do that, there's charges added to them. And so you want to add a generator to the site. That increases the rent. And you want to add another coaxial cable. And so what happens is what starts off as a reasonably priced site over time becomes something that's sort of an untenable situation. And I think that's sort of a layman's way of explaining why this is happening.
And I totally get that. I mean, if it was my business, I would be trying to do the same,
Right.
I'm not faulting anybody for that. I just want to make sure we're covering our bases.
Understood. I just wanted to share that concept.
Is there anybody else signed up over there to speak about this? Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patrick Edwards. I'm an attorney at Stinson Law Firm in Wichita. I represent SBA, which is the existing tower, and I'm here to oppose the CUP application. So I've got some handouts. I've got a few things I want to cover, and then I'll hopefully pick up a couple of the issues that have been discussed so far. So the first handout I have is one that I handed out at the last meeting, and it is it's a one page. It's actually got two maps. But it shows how close SBA's existing tower is to the location of the proposed tower. It's 720 feet away, okay? The existing tower was built in 2008. It was actually not built by SBA. It was built by another company Horvath Towers. SBA acquired this tower in 2010. It purchased Horvath, or either purchased all or some of Horvath, but it acquired this tower, okay? Our tower is 400 feet tall. I believe the proposed tower is 385 feet. Our tower is technologically up to date. It may have been built 13 years ago, but it's technologically up to date. Our tower currently serves AT&T at 396 feet high, and we have room for additional carriers. So this is not a maxed out tower. If someone new wants to come into town, we have room for them, okay? So one of the things that was discussed earlier was that, well, the single lessor issue, and you've got one storefront and somebody's holding you hostage, okay? That's not what's happening here. SBA has never been contacted by AT&T on this tower, okay? What I'm handing out right now, and let me clarify, never been contacted with any problems with the tower, like, hey, it's not tall enough, it's whatever. We haven't been contacted about that. We also have never been contacted about pricing. And that's interesting because the lease that's at issue here was signed in 2008 with Horvath. We acquired it. So SBA didn't negotiate this lease, our predecessor did. And AT&T signed it. And we have charged, to this day, it has over time escalator provisions. The Horvath lease does. You could have calculated in 2008 how much AT&T was going to pay in 2021. This is not a surprise, hey, guess what, your rent went up. No, this was negotiated in 2008 with our predecessor. AT&T has never complained about it. AT&T has never come to us and say, hey, let's look at that lease again and see if we can renegotiate it. They haven't contacted us. We found out that there was an issue when we found out that there was a CUP application on file. Okay, so the idea that that we're holding AT&T hostage is not the case. They haven't reached out to us. This letter that I've got is also one I handed up last meeting. It's from Susan Mulvaney, who's SBA's site marketing manager. She's in charge of various SBA sites, including this one. She's AT&T's point person. If AT&T has a problem, they call Susan Mulvaney. Susan Mulvaney in this letter makes clear, I've never heard from them about this. This is not an issue that was ever brought to my attention. It's my understanding that she hasn't heard from them since the date of this letter either. Additionally, there was discussion about how, well, there's other costs incurred, or other costs in this lease that if you do certain things, maybe it'll cost more money. AT&T signed a lease with SBA in January of 2021 for FirstNet. That was a zero cost increase amendment. We signed the amendment, we didn't charge AT&T a single penny. So again, the idea that we were holding them hostage, we wouldn't have done that and given them a free amendment, okay? The next thing I'd like to hand out are propagation maps. What these maps show, what they do is they compare coverage on the existing tower with likely coverage on the proposed tower. Our tower is 15 feet higher and 720 feet away. And if you look at them, the first and second page compare, it's different frequencies. So the first and second page are the existing tower at 700 megahertz. The second page is the proposed tower at 700 megahertz. If you go to the third and fourth page, it's the same order of existing and then proposed towers at 850 megahertz. The fifth and sixth page, 1900 megahertz. Seventh and eighth page, 2100 megahertz. What these show, in blue is good coverage, and blue and green are good coverage. Yellow is spotty coverage, and red is poor coverage. Coverage is the exact same. So there is no difference in coverage. There is no, when you're discussing earlier the benefit to residents of Marion County, there is none. There is no benefit here. In layman's terms, this tower is completely unnecessary. Okay, we have room on our tower. There's no improved service that's going to be provided by this tower, and AT&T is being billed exactly as they signed up for 13 years ago, and they've never come to us and said, let's renegotiate. You guys have already seen this because you pointed it out, but here's some excerpts from your own zoning regulations. These are Marion County zoning regulations. There's various regs that talk about benefit to the public, etc. But I'll turn you to the second page, which we had up here before, up on the screen before. The first thing I want to talk about is if you go to subsection F, so 19 for the record is 19-105. subsection 53C, or sorry, 53F. And it says there should be a reclamation plan and there should be a reclamation bond. So whether or not KSA 66-219 applies, there has to be a reclamation bond in place, okay? And the reason for that is the statute says that you can, that you cannot, here, let me actually pull up the statute. Bear with me.
You said 53F, is it 52F that you're talking about?
No, 52F is a good point. 52F actually is the reclamation bond required for wind farms, but it's also required there, and that's an important point. But the statute says that essentially, if the statute applies, so this is an assumption that if our position is wrong and the statute applies, it still doesn't preclude or still doesn't prevent you guys from requiring reclamation bonds. And it says that you can't impose surety requirements, ... to ensure that abandoned or unused facilities can be removed. So you can't do that unless the authority imposes similar requirements on other permits for other types of commercial development or land uses. So you can't do it unless you require it for other stuff. The point that Mr. Dahlke made is a good one. You guys require the same reclamation bond for commercial wind towers. So based on the statute, even if it does apply, if I'm wrong and it does apply, then you still can require reclamation bonds. That's important because if you go to your statute, subsection F, the applicant shall also provide financial security in a form acceptable to the county to assure reclamation of the property shall occur in conformance with the plan. They don't have a reclamation bond in this case. They're arguing it doesn't apply. It does apply, even if the statute applies, even if I'm wrong and the statute applies, you still can require it, and you do require it in your own zoning ordinances. That's it. Unless and until they provide a reclamation bond under subsection F, this cannot be granted. The other issue is subsection C that's right above it. That is 100% contingent on what the commission decides on whether or not the statute applies. The statute has never been interpreted by a single court. There are several reasons why. If you go to subsection C, it essentially says if there's usable space on an existing tower within 3 miles away, you've got to deny the tower application. Okay. This boils down to the Kansas statute. Unfortunately, a court in the AG has never analyzed it. In the memo that I sent to Mr. Jantz, I detail several reasons why we believe the statute does not apply, and it's essentially that it's our position that it only applies to public property, to applications on public property, not applications on private property. This is a private property application. If you look at the heading of the statute, it says public property. Nowhere in the statute does it say this statute governs private property. There's other provisions in the statute that say, subject to the provisions of this section and applicable federal law, an authority may continue to exercise zoning, land use, planning, and permitting authority within their territorial boundaries regarding the siting of towers. Well, if this applies, you really can't. It strips you of 95% of your authority. So the rest of the statute, that provision suggests, well, you can't do that. Then there's, I won't go through all of them out of respect for your time, but the memo that I provided references a number of other documents. When this statute was in its bill stage before it was passed, the Kansas legislature has various documents that suggest that this does not, that it only applies to public property. Same thing with respect to the Kansas League of Municipalities. And there's also a letter from various carriers, including AT&T, that says this really doesn't change much. This bill doesn't really change much. Well, if it is interpreted as it's being proposed today by the applicant, it 100% changes everything. So, for those reasons, SBA believes that we contend that this statute does not apply here because it's private property. As a result, all the restrictions from subsection F of that statute don't apply because of subsection 53C of your own zoning regulations. We have available space on our tower. We're 720 feet away. We're not within we're much less than the 3 mile ring, and so that's also a dead stop on this application. It can't be granted. With that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have for me.
So there's a 15-foot difference. What's, I know this maybe not be able to be answered, but what's sea level? Point A and point B.
I don't have the answer. I believe it's relatively, actually, just 1 second, I might.
Are you talking about the elevation?
Yeah.
The elevation. Because if one is 15 feet higher to start with, they're both 400 feet.
Right. Well, I mean, and my point is the coverage is the same no matter what. And so, I mean, maybe it is 15 feet higher. I thought it was on the, I thought I could pull that information from the prop maps, but I don't have it on here. I could find it for you relatively quickly, but I believe, I mean, if there's any elevation change at all, it's very minimal.
We have a reclamation bond on SBA.
I don't know if we do or not. One thing I can tell you is that if there's not one, it's because there wasn't one required by your own zoning regulations. Our tower was built in 08. I believe your zoning regs were drafted in 10, and then they were amended here this year, I believe. But to the extent there wasn't one, it's because it wasn't required.
Any further questions for the commission?
Appreciate you guys' time.
I'm going to ask Brad, does this, to me, if I have 3 places to buy an item, here we have 2 places maybe after this one was built, does this just infringe upon freedom? I mean, not allow them to build a tower or to build a tower? Or do we have, in your opinion, do we have, the law says we cannot build a tower based on what you said?
Multiple ways for me to answer that question, depending upon what part of emphasis I want to put on it. It's still going to come down to a fairly simplistic question that Mr. Mueller said at the outset. This is the first time you were seeing all of this. I've had the opportunity to spend quite a bit of time on it, learn more than is often the case that I wanted to know about some elements of it, and I think they've presented to you a really clear dichotomy on what we're dealing with. We don't have any kind of case law on this. We don't have a challenge previously done by a court of record in this state. We don't have an Attorney General's opinion yet, but we may fairly quickly. Because this is something that really does need to be dealt with. I'm going to assume that none of you have probably read through in great detail 2019. And even if you do, that may leave you with more questions than answers. I've talked at length with Sharon about it. I guess what I would, probably there's some more education that needs to go on with regard to this body. Sharon, what's our time frame on this? It's 150 days?
Yes. So, if there again, if you're saying that this statute applies to private properties as well, you have 150 days to either approve or deny. Otherwise, it's basically automatically approved.
And counting from?
From the application date, which was October 28th.
You're saying 150 days and no action taken, automatically go to approval. Okay.
October, what day did you say?
October 28th.
8 more days would be 60 days. It's already off of 150 days. 160.
Coupled with the applicant's interest in getting an answer as soon as they can as well, and all the parties involved. But my point is, you're not bumping up against that today. I would probably, not that I want to delay this a great deal, suggest that we have a little more time and I can prepare something in more detail, encapsulating all of this with the staff position on it in some detail.
distributed?
Yes, I'm gonna come back to the original question, and I guess point the question directly at you. In your opinion, does the statute apply to private lands? In your research to this point?
I think it does.
Okay, and that's supporting what staff and the consultant have all come to the same conclusion.
I'd much prefer that a district court judge or a judge of competent jurisdiction had said that, but based on what I have done with it so far, yeah. I think compelling arguments are made, but that's the way I'm reading it.
What does his last point as far as the bond?
That I think is still potentially applicable, given, again, when you read this thing, and that's what I think everyone has said so far, no one's been consistent about that. There are elements of this, depending on how it's worded, they didn't anticipate each and every thing and exhaustively take away what would amount to home rule in a lot of circumstances. I've run into this now 3 times, 2 municipalities and a county. And in each instance, the one thing I could say with confidence is we don't have an absolute smoking gun answer for this. And the challenges are each case by case a little bit, and each compelling in their own way. But it usually involves something along these lines where we've got multiple towers within a certain distance, and do you or do you not have that, along with several other things that have come up. And the state, to some extent, did away with the home rule element of things on this one in the interest of the greater good on a communication type of a decision.
On the staff, well, actually on the motion from the zoning board, one of the conditions, the first condition was about unused for a period of time and removal. But that doesn't specifically address the bond issue.
Right.
And I noticed the issue was addressed in the condition from the motion.
Yes, so historically, the types of towers that have been required to have a reclamation bond or security have only been wind turbines at this point. The communications towers, the verbiage that you see here on the conditions is consistent with what has been passed with other communications towers in the county.
Add some complexity to it, in that the changes in the law overlap a little bit what we put together here versus what the statute has done. They are, one predates the other.
Mm-hmm.
Then we get into the questions which are the applicability in state law versus our local county resolutions.
Right, and the state law says any such requirement should be competitively neutral, non-discriminatory, reasonable in amount, and commensurate with the historical record for local facilities and structures. So there's still the ability to have the tower removed if it's abandoned.
Right.
That can be handled with that specific piece of property. It falls back on the landowners or the applicant.
The only issue I have is sometimes the applicants don't exist when it's time to reclaim, then you're stuck.
That falls back to the landowner.
That's where the bond comes in.
Or was agreement signed by the previous?
If we was to postpone this, what kind of time frame would you be asking for?
Is that a question to me?
Yes.
Of course it is.
Straight it was.
30 days?
Yeah, I would think at most, I would say 3 weeks at least, but if I could get it with holidays in here.
Ask the commission, does that sound like a sensible thing to do at this point, or?
I think if the KSA rule supersedes, then it's good to know that we crossed our T's and dotted our I's. If the bonding thing is a legitimate concern, same goes. I mean,
When you get into communication towers that are this high, you drive around the country and you see these ones that are, 100 feet or less. We're talking about wind turbine height.
Sharon, did you have any comment on the extending for 30 days?
So are you wanting to get back like an attorney general opinion within a matter of time?
There's no way
or
we'll get one that
just-
quick.
Yeah.
Now, this would just be internal in terms of making sure if they have all the information that you guys have already gone through, and certain in terms of the due diligence that's been done, and we're gonna use our best efforts in terms of interpretation. Yes, I still think that we make that request, but there's no way we'd have it anytime.
But the Planning and Zoning Commission has studied all this, looked at everything, and they have approved it. What are we looking for now?
But the bond is not part of the condition.
There's not specifically a bond in the conditions that were recommended. It's just that if unused for a period of 12 months or more, the structure shall be declared abandoned and the applicant will be required to remove it. And
That was my only question. I see these companies change hands like crazy. Sorry, no.
It's the same people with different names.
At this time, is somebody prepared to move ahead and make a motion, or wait for further information?
I want to be sure we're right when we're going. That's, and I don't want to delay them from getting work done or get started, and just, you can hear from anybody that this is what it says. If you don't look at yourself, then we didn't do the due diligence.
Yeah, Dave?
I'd make the motion that we approve the Planning and Zoning Committee's recommendation to approve the CPU as presented.
Okay. Have a motion on the floor to approve the planning and zoning's recommendation to go ahead and allow. Correct, Dave?
Yes.
Okay. Do I hear a second? One more time. Do I hear a second? Hearing no second. Motion fails. I would make a motion to allow our legal counsel for 30 days to bring back any and all information concerning to us. And that would be put on the agenda for late in January. I don't know what date that would be or anything, but at least 30 days. That's my motion. Second. Second by Jonah. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Unanimous, 5-0.
I will just say, no disrespect to the planning commission.
No, I think they did their job.
Just one more.
I really wanted to
check.
Just go with that.
Yes, sir.
But there's a few things that just stuck out.
If 30 days does not cause adverse impact, I think it's worth time well spent.
And I would say everything to that, but also to the people that's out here in either yay or nay. We want to be sure ourselves. I probably will go back and see, look at the minutes of the meeting and stuff like that, and see what all was said there. And that, and then apply that with what Brad brings back to us. So, can you give me a date? I'll put that on.
Let's see. Yeah, probably be the 24th of January.
24th, okay. Okay, thanks to both the planning and zoning board, Sharon, thank you, thanks to the commissioner here to make sure we do the right thing. And we will have it back on our agenda the 24th of January.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, next on our agenda, and I see you sitting in our crowd today, Brett.
And Brian.
And Brian, both.
Thank you all for your time, I appreciate it.
Thanks.
It's a lot
Close.
slower in there.
Thank
In case
you.
got
We
something to say,
appreciate
the mic
that.
can pick you up.
More paper. I think he's got paper. I think you delegated. You're supposed to, be the president of the fair board, right? And then you're delegating.
No, I didn't delegate this. He's the one that brought it up at the last meeting, and we were trying to squeeze it in this year yet.
My name's Brent Unruh. That's Brian Clinda. We're both here representing Marion County Fair Board. We wanted to propose to all of you, we're looking to create a community building in Wildeberg on the Marion County Fairgrounds. What this will do is create a large capacity venue, basically, weddings, basically anything you want, rental facility. There's nowhere in the county that we can think of that has the square footage like we do on the fairgrounds. So, I guess we're here asking for some financial help from you to create this project. There's a couple different stages that'll go into this. It would be adding a exit door on the northwest side of the building. And then the most costly part of it is installing a brand new HVAC system in the facility. We have two local businesses within our community that have decided to help out with this project on a very, very large scale. One is Fleming's Heating and Cooling, and one is Ocon Electric. They have both decided to donate all of their labor to help this project move forward. As you see, I put a quote in there from Fleming's. For materials alone, it's $51,410. Obviously, about 2 years ago, that price would have been a lot less.
25.
Yeah. But the way inflation's going, I see that price continuing to rise. So we want to get this project started as soon as we can before it's just not feasible for us to do anymore. So there'll be potentially 4 different financial contributors to this: Marion County, City of Hillsborough, Marion County Fair, and 4-H. So it has a possibility of being really something great for the community that we can all enjoy for years to come, and actually bring in revenue to the community to have something like that. Say we do weddings there, we can fill up the hotel, we can bring in people for the restaurants. It's something that we never get our money back from it, but it's something great to have in the community.
This is the first building that you'd be...
It'd be the one closest to the baseball field.
Yeah.
Yeah. To go along with that, we'd have to have a whole new electrical system put in to maintain the 6 AC units, and
How many square feet is the building?
60 by
60 by 100.
130, I think is what it is. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So you'll see in there, I had an idea. I don't know if it's something that is needed in this community, but if there's a facility in the community that would Fema could set up inside. We have showers in there, we have a kitchen, we have everything needed if an ice storm or a tornado were to hit Marion County. We have somewhere for residents to go and possibly stay, costs, all that would be needed to make that a possibility is to add a generator hookup on the outside of the building. So I figure if we're doing electrical work already to get the building up to where we want it to be, that's something we could possibly do to help out.
Kind of hits home when you see they're doing the same thing up in Russell right now.
Yeah. And that's something the Fair Board's really trying to do. We've been blessed, the local businesses and residents of Marion County have just, they contributed so much to this. So we're trying to do something we can give back to the community.
Would you rent this out for auctions and things like that?
Yeah.
I mean, like right now, the pack rats are having a weekly flea market.
Yeah.
And they're all good crowds.
Yep.
And they're about to lose the building now, so.
Yeah, so this would be, yeah, we can have it for rentals for
They
anything.
bring 100 people to town every weekend.
Yeah. So right now we have the gymnastics, it's called the core, is in there. Part of what this plan entails, we would be taking the heating units out of that building and moving them over to the commercial building. And we'd move gymnastics over to that building eventually, so that we would have a rental facility, which would be the 4-H building.
Have you seen the facility at Harrington?
Yeah, we've been going off a lot of what they're doing.
That gets a phenomenal
It gets
amount of use.
It gets used every week, I think.
Every multiple uses.
And
It brings a lot of people to
our community size and community building actually is pretty comparable.
Yeah.
Not quality wise, but
Yeah.
size wise it is.
Right.
I was just gonna comment on that. I was involved in that project from dirt on up. And that thing is phenomenally used on a regular basis, everywhere for everything. Local businesses, machinery dealerships, they wanted to go in and do a little bit of a fair in there, and they used it for that purpose. They use it for Christmas parties, they use it for all kinds of arts and crafts fairs. A lot of community events. It is regularly booked with, I can't think of the telecom company. They have their
annual meetings.
Yeah, they have their annual in there. The co-op
Co-ops
uses it in there for that. You won't even think, I did not think of all the purposes to which it's put. Local businesses use it because they have several breakout rooms along with the kitchen for training sessions. They book the whole thing, even if they don't use the whole thing. Tina was asking in terms of rental costs. It can be done. Yes, you can charge rent on this and split that up to these entities. It's just a question of how we do it, so we're not a for-profit entity, but we are able to do it, because I spent quite a bit of time putting that together for Harrington. There, the city took the lead on it because they had a building, and they rent the fairgrounds out with the board for the Tri-County Fair. So the city basically took it on, but we got some grants and some other things involved with it. The one that was there was woefully inadequate and was falling down. So I will give Ron Strickland credit. He was the city manager at that time. It was something he had been involved with before. So they built it from the ground up, but I really would encourage what you're thinking of doing conceptually, because I sure have seen it firsthand be an incredibly valuable asset to the county.
It's something we feel we can give back to the community with.
And I think it's of greater value here. Dickinson County, you've got Abilene, and you've got some other venues, and still this one is booked all the time. Here, I do think, having grown up in this county too, this one's gonna have a lot more use even than that, because there's not a lot of competing venues for that purpose.
There'll be more that goes into this in the future. We need a new garage door. We need to put a new wainscoting around the bottom because the metal's just shot. But this, by doing this, it gets us up and going to where we can bring in some revenue and we can maybe take on bigger projects like that.
Raise your funding for something else.
What kind of funding was you asking from the county?
I didn't want to shoot myself in the foot, but I know we were asking, so I don't know what the county is able to do financially to help out. And I'm not expecting an answer today, but I would like to just put the bug in your ear that we'd like to see us moving forward. So I know the Fair Board, we've come up with a number of $10,000 that we can put towards it, and I think 4-H might be close to that or maybe a little less. So, in the city of Hillsborough, they know this is coming to them as well, but I haven't given them a formal proposal yet.
The other issue, public funding to use to rent out. I mean, don't we sort of do that with, I mean, you rent things out right now when we give you so much money a year.
Yeah, it gets rented.
Yeah.
Or the core, the gymnastics, they're a monthly tenant. They're permanent.
Is that breaking anything, any rules or anything?
Not if we do it correctly, no.
Which is how? Doing
We're
it
not-
correctly? Because,
Yeah.
just because,
Yeah.
I mean, we've had an issue in the past with wanting to do certain things with the park and lake, and because it's publicly funded, you know, there are rules. And so I think that the board probably needs to
And,
know
yeah.
how we need to properly do it.
We're basically treating it, what I end up going to is a lot of the same kind of guidance that you'll get for a 501c3. We can go ahead and cover our cost, and that can include maintenance and other types of things. That's where the accountant comes in. We cannot treat it as a for-profit type of an event. If it looks like, well, okay, it takes this much for us to cover our cost and to maintain the facility and use it, let's say that were $500 per event, I'm just using a hypothetical, and then we decide, well, we want to throw a little bit on top of that and turn it into a for-profit venture and make it $750 or $1,000, we're going to get in trouble over that. No different than a lot of the municipalities, like the city of Beacon, for example. When we first put that in, we were renting space to different entities. Well, first of all, if they were a not-for-profit, it wasn't a problem for us, but if they were, then we had to be somewhat careful what we rented to, what type of enterprise it was, and that we were only covering our costs. It was a break-even proposition, and that becomes an accounting exercise. So that's what we do, and it is possible.
With public funding, do we need more than one bid?
Have to? No. Is it a good idea? Yeah, normally. However, if you've got people donating, at that point, it's a little bit of a different circumstance.
Well, I'm just talking about the cost of it.
Yeah, yeah.
You still have to have somebody to install it, so if you're gonna have to bid. I'm just talking about, I'm trying to stay out of
Yeah,
this a little
I
bit
understand.
because of,
Right.
but I'm talking from the heating and air side. If they bid the equipment, which is fine and dandy, but these guys are giving up labor, they're not gonna give up their labor to install somebody else's.
Well, I'm just saying, that I was just asking, since it's publicly funded,
Yeah.
if it's something that has to.
So it's gotta be apples for apples.
He said it
Yeah.
didn't have to be done.
No,
That
that's
answers
not.
my question.
And I did, when I was at the fair board meeting, talking about our usable space in order for our situation. I did bring it up to these guys, and not everything is fully in place yet as far as how it goes with ARPA and infrastructure, so bring your ideas sooner rather than later. Just, you know, if it could fit an avenue, I just wanted to make sure it was on the radar. That way, we were aware of where things could be. Not that it had to be, just, if it could fit and be thought of, even if no dollars were spent, just wanted to make sure it was brought up.
Do I hear any recommendations from any of the board members to come up with an idea here, or study this out, and see how we can help?
Could that come out of rescue funds?
Well, that's what, I think what Jonah was just talking about. We don't know yet.
And that was the whole thing, and so that's why I don't expect them to really have a hard, firm, fast number. It was more, this is needed, and don't forget about us.
It's a great idea.
Is this something we're gonna do this summer or next winter or this spring or?
So I'd like to do something, probably as quick as we can, just because of the numbers on everything. It's not like crazy.
The supply chain is just gonna push you out to next year anyway.
This number.
Would you dedicate this as a safe, not a safe house, but a
Community shelter.
Community shelter, yes, there you go, community shelter.
We can't have storm shelter.
Can't really call it a shelter if we don't put FEMA rated something inside of it, so it's gotta be
Then
more
We'd
of
have
a
to do some engineering to do
It's a
that.
community building.
Blown away.
I guess what I was just thinking is, maybe after the storm passes, it's somewhere people can go.
Yeah.
It's not, it wouldn't be a shelter.
It's be a rescue something.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's somewhere in the county that's already designated for that, but it's something that we can possibly help with. We have showers, we have kitchen, we have.
So I'm trying to put it over here for service.
There are a few of those locations designated in the emergency plan that meet the standards.
A lot of schools
Yeah.
fit,
Yeah.
as far as a FEMA shelter. Yeah, because they get funding to put up gyms, stuff. 8-eyed block, concrete, wood barn.
The jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably a lot more sturdy than our buildings.
Yeah.
That's totally fine, it's just an idea.
Don't try to drill a hole in the wall, but don't try to do it. In the Sherry Fleming Center of the Arts, it's the center piece is, yeah, it's reinforced 12-inch 8-eyed block. Yeah, so it is a FEMA shelter.
And that part has, doesn't matter to me if we don't do that, it's just an idea.
No,
It's not-
I think it's, after seeing what happened in Kentucky,
Be a good place
as long
to
as it
sleep.
survives the storm, it is a place for somebody to get a roof over their head. Stay warm.
So somewhere in the neighborhoods of, you're not even close to half yet, just to guarantee you're probably, no, you're not even half funded yet.
And I'm sorry, I did get a quote from Jonah, but this was about a year ago, we were talking about it, so I've lost those numbers.
You held the price on that too.
Oh.
He's gonna guarantee that.
Did copper price go down?
Did you honor that?
Did the copper price go down? If so, then yeah.
You did honor that from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
This is something we can work on the next 60 days after we find out about American Rescue. We'll write on with that.
We've got other things to address too, as far as a simple agreement for using space too, so.
Yeah.
We're going to be into it.
Okay, well, that's part of it, that's what I was looking at, to see how we can, I was thinking maybe a rent goes up for that even, for a year or so, for to use a building and store some of our equipment in,
I think it's a good project. I mean,
so.
I guess that's where I would go at this point is, do we have consensus of the commission to support the project? We just don't know the dollar number.
Right, we're willing to help. We want to-
I guess that's where I'm trying to get to,
Yes,
at least
we're willing to help.
willing.
I don't think there's a commissioner here that I've heard is
Right.
we
against
want to
it
be
in
part
any
of the
way.
team.
If you need to, I'll make a motion that the commission consents to helping in a financially, without putting a dollar amount on it, going forward.
We
It's a
don't want
motion by Kent Becker,
I'll second.
second by Dave Crowfoot. All those in favor of this, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
I'm gonna abstain, just because
Okay, four.
because
Okay.
Elcon was mentioned, I just
Yeah.
want to.
You're abstaining just because you're involved.
Yeah, maybe, they could always pick somebody else can come along.
Okay, all right. Well, you have our intentions, now we'll see how we can help you. That's,
You want me to come back to the next meeting, let me know, and I'll be here to help however I can.
I think we just need to figure out a dollar amount that we can physically come up with and see where we're at.
And I can probably get you a more solid number for the whole project if you would like. Because I have to add another door to be able to withstand 1,000 people in that facility. If I don't have another door, it
Wow.
reduces it down a lot.
That's pretty tight, isn't it, for that, 1,000 people?
So you can handle it.
I'm not.
I think
If our
having
marshal said
a
that.
good number, more accurate number is good, and then I would say commission should look at potential funding levels, like after the first of the year, once our financials or once our year's closed, and we see where we end up. Because we, the heated dock and the EMS station being paid out of our county funds right now is, it's a lot, so
I'd
you
say
wanna maybe
in
wait
30
until
days.
January to decide, see where we are.
It'd be good to come up with a total project number goal.
Yeah.
And that'll help with other funding sources too.
So hopefully maybe mid-January, we will
Yeah.
have those numbers, or
Yeah.
the third week, 'cause it
We're
takes a
gonna
while
close-
for a treasurer to close those books.
Close some things out, see just exactly where we stand financially, and see if sales tax has any money in it, maybe.
See if we could put it on the agenda the same day the tower people are back, so that's
24th.
And you guys didn't fight, so
You can kinda
bring it back together again.
We'll have to see if,
Come here
that's a
then
good
again,
date to
huh?
shoot for, but we would just have to see if the numbers are available by then.
Okay.
I
If the
just have a-
numbers are ready.
Yeah.
Just have a simple question, if this is concluded, then we'll put it back on the date. Do you, was you contacted by Jonah and to store some buildings, use a storage building, the one down?
We have talked about it, yeah.
Okay. Okay. And did our emergency management contact you guys, either one of you? Okay. Yeah. So,
Brad, are you aware that the board wants you to draft a simple agreement for temporary storage of the?
We should.
oh yeah, that would be a necessity if we come to an agreement.
Oh, yeah.
to do it, and see what you wanna allow
We
us, so we
direct
know.
Brad to handle that.
And
Is
what
that a
kind,
directive?
That is.
it is directive, yeah, coming up that, and see, I need clarification on what they need. They need an open route through there, things like that they have to have, so that if we can store our equipment. I don't know if our equipment's been in there yet or not. I did not receive a phone call from our emergency director, is what I give orders to last week. Nothing's been done as far as I'm concerned.
Well, it sounds like when I talked to Randy about it, I talked to him about if we can to stay on the east third, which is about 130 feet by 25 maybe.
Stay
And-
on the east third.
Yeah, that way if Lepke comes over with the auction, he can pull hay racks in
Okay.
and take them out and have, like, if it's decent weather, have the auction in the pavilion.
Okay.
And Randy didn't act like it was gonna be an issue, but then Jonah called me and said, wanted to know what I talked to Randy about. Sounds like there's a little bit of
Okay.
miscommunication.
Okay, but now we've heard from you, now I know what.
And I don't know, I think it was one thing that there was concern about, which I'm not sure, was like if, with the sheriff, if we put equipment in there, that if we have to move something, he needs a little bit of notice on how to
Yeah.
get things out. I didn't know if you guys
That
had
all
all
needs
talked.
to be in the.
So that was one thing in the agreement, just, hey,
How much?
here's how much notice we'll have to
Yeah,
move
notice
things.
to get stuff out.
And I think he said like a week, just
Week,
for
7
temporary
days
to
is
move
what
things.
7
He
days.
was talking like, and I don't see a issue with having notice before 7 days.
Do we contemplate like multiple uses at one time? If Lepke wants to have been to one of those kinds of auctions, some of the equipment would still be in there, somehow we'd have to secure that, or do we divide that area off?
Well, what I talked with Randy Frank is if we could use like the pavilion for the
Yeah.
auction,
Okay.
but store the hay racks inside, so no one steals.
It would be limited to the auctioneer having access, but not the general public,
Yeah.
totally.
Okay.
It would be more of a, hey, it might rain tonight,
Lock
let's keep it in here,
storage.
lock it up, take it out to the pavilion in the morning.
Okay.
And I think maybe like 5 people in the fair board have keys to the building.
Yeah.
There's very little people that have access to any of our facilities other than us.
So
We did discuss maybe changing the locks.
If the directive is for a simple agreement, I need to keep it to 27 pages or less. What you think?
27 words.
I was kinda hoping for
About
a
2
single page,
pages.
just,
2.7 paragraph.
Your small font.
this is what you expect from us, this is what we expect from you.
Yeah, and I guess, Brad, that we need to, if somebody can't handle the project, well, I guess I need to talk directly to them and get it down on paper and bring it to you then.
And I can put together a draft. We can sit down and talk about it and work our way through
Okay.
that too. That's
Okay.
fine.
Is that, we'd love to store, we just don't have a place to go for right now. And we do have a building that we're sort of in mind here over here to eventually get it to, but it could be a year away.
That's why I see this project with the 4-H building being a year out, so I mean, that'd be perfect actually. So.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you, I appreciate
Thank
all
you.
of you.
No, and we We will get back with you.
Tell your employers thanks for letting me off.
This is wrong too hard. Especially after all the hours I put in last week.
Yeah. Hey, we're almost on time. How did that happen? Right, come right.
I guess we're not waiting for Randy, is that the way it goes? Or not Randy?
Travis.
Yes.
Travis is off.
Oh.
He's been off for a while.
Oh.
Huh?
It's a public meeting.
Okay. He'd probably say the same thing about me, so. All right, I got a whole bunch of kind of smaller stuff right there today. You did sign the check for the Norfolk contract, you know, did get that. We opened the bridge up. It was funny, we opened up last week and oh yeah, there's a steady string of traffic coming down there. It's all packed on both sides and everything. So the only thing we have left to do is we're gonna put some riprap around the corners of the bridge. Do that after the first year when Jeff will be back. So, but otherwise, I think it turned out very well considering. Last week, I had sent a thing to, or maybe this week before that, talking about the landowner over on 300 that wants us to rebuild the road. I figured that cost just roughly was going to be probably $20-some thousand. I asked him for 12. He said he could only pay 8. So I guess I want to talk to the commission. The biggest expense we have is just contracting the rock to get over there. We've got about 3 culverts. The small ones need to be replaced, but like I said, that's just the biggest expense is getting the rock over there.
What type of road do we have?
It's dirt now, but he wants us to go back to rock. So we'd have to go back and work on ditches, basically rebuilt about 7/10 of a mile.
There's no ditches on that road.
Yeah.
300 west of 15.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he said if we wanted more, he'd have to take it out of his house, and I just like I don't really want to go there, but so.
This is a new house construction.
Yes. Or it's in the process of it right now. So, but you know, like anything else, we've asked for the money up front so that we have it and can get the road done. So.
And you say our cost looks like 20,000.
Could be. I mean, that was figuring the equipment and everything else, which I mean is already kind of considered, but just the material alone was the 12,000. Like I said, the biggest problem is just contracting the rock to get there, the haul. So.
But his access from off of 290th is almost as close as coming off of 15.
290th up to Goldenrod. So, but like I said,
And that's a good gravel road.
Mm-hmm. Goldenrod, going by the school there in the dairy.
Yeah, so that's going through on that bridge.
Yes.
Yeah, probably better have an alternate route eventually.
I can't answer that question because I don't know how long that bridge, you know, I can't.
They get to get out to the north?
Do what?
Can they get out to the north on Goldenrod?
Trying to remember if they go north, I think that's a dirt road as well.
Well, it's,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be, part of it would be gravel.
Yeah, but it's just like anything else. It's,
I guess my suggestion is if the cost is 12,000, or the recommendation is 12,000, we stick with 12,000.
I'm leaning to that too, because next person comes along and wants an 80% reduction.
Same thing for me. If I want to build a road, I would reduce it too.
Just have Formica County top instead of quotes.
like I said, you know, that's the part of living in the country, and you know, if you want to have.
About the 20 grand though that you were talking about, how much of that was that?
Well, that's our extra. Well,
What's the
Machine
standard
done
price?
25,000.
Yeah, I mean, just talking that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was talking 700 tons of base rock and 700 tons of top rock. Well, if you haul that material, or you pay for the haul on the base rock, you're probably talking $12-some a ton. But if you haul that top rock, it could be up to 20. You know, for the extra price. So, you know, and you put those together, that's the $20,000. But like I said, there's other people that do get advantage of using it.
Right.
Well, but I just thought, that was, you know, over half of what it was gonna cost us, so.
What was the most recent one? Was that Nelson? Corey? Did he, not Cody, but Corey, his brother. Was gonna
No.
build on an old farmstead or something.
We haven't had that.
Okay.
The last one we did was for Doyle Weeby. You guys agreed to put the base rock down, he put the surface rock down
Okay.
for his egg place.
If that's what we've done, we need to cover the base rock. Surface rock is 12?
Well, I mean, just due to the higher price of the rock, you're talking more money just from that. Your haul's probably gonna run you $7 to $7.50 a ton.
Oh, wait a minute, this is not a house that you just talked about, right? You talked about business?
No,
Just the house,
this
just the
is
house.
for the house.
Yeah.
The 7/10.
But
The one,
you just
the
give
one
us an
with-
example of
of
the
Weeby.
business.
That Weeby was the agricultural facility for eggs. And we had talked about that. It wasn't specifically addressed in agriculture or commercial, and that's what you guys agreed to.
That's what I'm saying. But houses, this is a house.
Yeah.
What's
What
different?
are we doing on the last house?
This price would be very similar to what, is it Phipps? That we charged him to go on 160th west of there,
Yes.
because he went about 2/10 of a mile, and we asked for $3,000 there. So,
And this is a whole mile,
7/10.
7/10 almost.
Do you want a motion or consensus?
I'd like a motion.
Okay, I'd move that the charge for the road extension work be $12,000. $300.
I have a motion on the floor for the road charge of 7/10 of a mile to be $12,000. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second by Dave Crowfoot. Any discussion, any misunderstanding here or anything? Just
Says it's this the standard going forward. We're paying for top rock from now on, and or we pay for the base rock and they pay for the top rock.
Well, no, again, that was the agriculture facility. In the past, we
But
said they paid for.
How does the 12,000 break out when you're 20?
Was 700 tons of base rock and 700 tons of top rock,
And 700 tons of base rock was $8,000 of it.
roughly.
So we're paying the 8,000. So we're paying for the base rock going forward, and they're paying for the top rock.
Well,
No.
Going
my thing-
forward, we maintain it.
Yes.
Right.
No,
I mean, the next house that comes up.
This pays for both, the 12,000,
Okay.
base and top rock.
Okay.
Now, the one before was the
So we're-
agricultural.
So the 12,000 to the 20,000. What's the 8,000? 8,000 difference. In the,
Was just, well, I said the 20-some thousand dollars that I had anticipated it would cost is, I thought that was a little maybe excessive for the price of the house, so that's why I dropped it down to 12,000, approximately half of what it was.
okay. So that's got nothing to do with the material.
Well, this was just based on the amount of material.
Yeah. Are we doing it case by case? Is that what I'm hearing?
Residential, we've always said that if they want the road rebuilt, they pay for the rock up front, and then we take care of it after that.
Right, they pay the cost of the rebuild.
Yeah.
And how much is that?
Well, and again, just on that rock was the $22,000, based on $12 a ton and $20 a ton for the rock.
That's just materials though, right?
Yes.
So
But
We're
how
not,
come
we're not
putting
charging it
$20
for the rebuild.
Correct.
How come we're putting $20 worth of rock to start with? I mean, don't we?
Well, that's just the top rock. We've always said if we can get a good road, build it up the ditches, the crown, we put the good rock on it so that it lasts longer. That's what we do on all our rebuilds, is put down the gray rock or a little bit of sand too. I mean, that's the whole point of rebuilding the road, to make it, a good road down the road.
There's no use going out there and putting all that rock down without rebuilding the road.
Yep.
Because
No,
there's no
correct,
ditches, no
correct,
ditches there.
yeah. I don't know.
it's going to cost us 20,000.
Yeah.
That's what we. So
But-
the house before it cost us 10,000. I don't really care the dollar value, but what did we do?
What's the formula?
Yeah. So much per tenth of a mile or whatever else it is.
No, I'm saying they covered the materials, whatever the cost was back then. that's just it. That's the standard going forward, is they cover the materials, provide the labor, and we maintain the road after.
Well, and I guess the other thing that if you're looking to do that is, if we want to do basically what you call a force account, go out there and we haul the rock, and then whatever that ends up, that's what they pay. But the problem with that is, there's no guarantee that they pay it in beforehand. So that's the other thing we face either way.
But it's still cheaper than them contracting somebody to build
Oh,
the
yeah,
road.
definitely.
We do all the dirt work and stuff like that.
Yeah. And what's nice about it is if we rebuild it, we know exactly what's there, we check the pipes and.
I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know what is going on. Consistency is all I'm looking at. If one person had to pay for base rock and top rock, the next person should too.
Okay.
We're just using historical reference though when we're doing this. Just this is what we did in the past.
As far as residential, yes.
Okay.
Another directive for another policy.
That's sort of been the way it was.
Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Although
I
it
thought
wouldn't be a
that was
bad
just-
idea.
Because
Get
residential
it on
has
policy.
already kind of had a thing, but I brought up the commercial and
Commercial,
industrial.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all of that needs to be, might as well put it all together.
Yeah, okay.
Except for
Sorry.
residential.
Sorry.
I have a motion on the floor by Dave, second by Dave Crowfoot. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None.
I opposed.
Okay. All right, well, and I mean, that's something to look, we can, something else we got to think about.
Residential and any other type of
We've
usage.
got commercial,
Yeah.
business.
That's what I'm trying to
And
get my hands around it.
residential.
Okay.
But I'm quite sure if somebody offers to build a big business out there somewhere, the county may have to step up a little more somewhere.
Well, that's coming up later unless you want to talk about it now, so.
Just continue on your.
Okay,
Continue
gotcha,
on.
gotcha. Okay, I thought I sent them up last time, but have some more utility permits that, just they all go with. Couple revisions as well as a couple new ones, so.
Atlas involved?
I don't believe so.
Okay. I just wanted to ask.
Well, you definitely, like I said, I've had them for a while.
Yeah. There you go, Dave. I knew he was gonna reach for that
Well,
mark.
you're taking a picture, isn't that?
Let's get one of Dave's writings something.
Oh.
Since he's the only marker,
Send that to the
he's the only one that has markers.
Is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah, we don't have one that big.
There's
This-
4 of them.
The big paper
Yeah,
clip
that's
is
what I'm
holding
trying
them
to
all
ask.
together, all the smaller paper clips are separate ones.
Yeah.
Evergy again, all these?
No, it's just, you'd have to look at the top. I don't think there was. The big paper clip is what's holding them all together.
Okay. Is that what's happening to our roads with the little
Stakes and
stakes up?
yep.
Evergy's doing that?
Almost every place is Evergy, or they've contracted with Asphalt or whatever it is for like the tree removal and stuff like that, but yeah.
Okay, so you pretty well
Yep.
looked at these in, okay?
And they've submitted maps and everything else. I mean, they've done quite a job, so.
I'd like to make the motion, go ahead and approve these with the chairman's signature. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All those, second by Dave Mueller, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Bravo.
Okay. This is a consultant contract approval for the 5127 project. This is the HRRR project for 130th and Indigo. And so that's from KDOT. I think there's only one or two places to sign at the back, and I think I've signed it already, so.
So all you need signatures?
Yes. And I think that one requires all of you, if I remember right. It's towards the
I think you
middle.
probably actually need to approve that as well.
Yeah.
It's gonna require a motion for
I'd move to allow the chairman to sign the HRRR application for 130th and Indigo.
It's an agreement
Yeah.
with it's not an application.
Right, sign the agreement, because we've already approved the principal.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Dave Mueller, second by Kent Becker, to go ahead and sign for the agreement. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Nobody, 5-0.
always just,
Yes, it is, there is,
everybody
there's
just
room for
signs it.
3, so 2 of them.
Yeah, and some of the things that come from them have 5, and some of them have 3, and I'd ask, and everything they'd send out have 5, and they just do the form thing, and
Make a motion to amend the motion
For.
to have all
Yeah,
signatures.
well,
The motion was for
Oh, I did
the
say
chairman.
chairman.
yeah,
Yeah.
that require all of you.
You're correct.
Did I get a
The
second?
commission signed.
Do I hear an amendment motion?
That's my motion, to amend the,
Okay.
it'll be signed by all.
All 5 commissioners?
Yes.
Second by who?
I'll second.
Second by Dave Mueller.
they
All
make
those-
the original.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0. I've got
Yeah,
one. How many
I thought-
spots you said, 2?
I think there was just the one. There was a place where I recommended for
Okay.
approval also.
Okay, I've got a
I
paper
should
clip.
have, marked it.
Got a
where it
paper
was.
clip on it right
Yeah.
there, so.
Sticky notes.
Little arrows.
Sign here.
Sign here.
Tina, you need a copy of that.
Yes.
Yeah, because that's gonna be the original. She'll have a copy. We'll send in the original one.
Okay.
Do I have to attest that?
I don't remember seeing whether it had an attestation on it or not.
Does it have an attestation?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Yep, so I'll
So
take
I
it back
did.
when you guys sign it.
Go
You
ahead.
look so sophisticated with your.
Most people just say I look like an old lady.
I didn't go there. Didn't go there. You know. So.
Looks intelligent. Huh?
Yeah.
All 20. It comes back on the screen.
Is your list getting shorter, Russ?
Couple.
Oh, good.
While that was going down
Below.
there, got some money left over in my capital outlay budget. I got some quotes for some, 2 new computers for the office. So I was gonna look at getting those unless there's any objection. We had another issue with a empty, storage or a fuel tank that was blown off of its stand last week. We don't have an issue right now, but we could have an issue for 2 reasons. Number one, anytime those fuel tanks go over and have fuel in them, we have a waste cleanup. Second of all, we've actually heard from some of our guys delivering fuel that they don't like to climb up on top of them. So I guess I don't know an exact plan, but I've got quotes on a 300 gallon and a 500 gallon double wall tanks to put on the ground for fuel. And then we can hook them up to electricity and run the power into the shop. Probably looking at $1,000 a piece there. I could, if you would allow it, I could put it on the fuel budget because we were way under our fuel this year. But just something that we really, I think we need to look at. The other thing is a lot of our tanks are gravity fed, they don't have locks or whatever else, so we may be losing fuel, we don't know. Typically, if they come in to get fuel, they get it all at one time, but they gotta have a pretty big tank to get quite a bit of fuel. But anyway, I think it's probably the way we need to look at it in the future for liability as well as safety. Because obviously the other thing is that by chance if the tanks do blow over and land on somebody or something, and actually this one that did go over, I guess rolled over and hit a car, but it was kind of a junk car. So we're still trying to find out whether there would be any insurance. So anyway, something I'm looking at too.
Well, fits into fuel, so
Yeah.
I would see it.
Yeah.
Well,
First off, how many elevated tanks do you have?
Let's see, elevated tanks, we have
Or
1,
tanks on stands?
2,
I'd started something.
Just
Hold on,
a second.
hold on.
Just for financial tracking and history, I would not recommend taking it out of the fuel line item. I mean, if he has money left over there, that's great, but he's by fund, so that
Yeah,
line
well,
item is
and I was
just to
gonna-
track fuel costs, so I would not necessarily say put that out of there.
Infrastructure.
Because that throws off your historical.
Yeah. I'd like to say that we're never gonna have a problem with our fuel budget, but you know how that goes.
When you put them on the ground, you have to build a dike around them?
Nope, that's why they're double wall. That's,
Really?
yeah, that's the way they basically are made. You can actually get them with the retaining walls and everything else around there, but that's just one more thing to climb over, to climb up and everything else, but yeah. And most of your big farmers, they already have them now, just for those reasons. We've got extra tanks out at the south shop that we're gonna try to fill in with this one until we determine that. But it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4. No, we just have 3. We just have 3 above ground gravity flows now. The rest of them are either get fuel at a gas station or at one of the shops.
I'd sure encourage you to get rid of them.
Well, like I said, I mean,
that's the way it's going, as a double wall.
We've got one at Durham that we don't use. We've got one at Tampa we don't use. One at Ramona we don't use. So, but they're just liabilities really. So. But I'll do some more checking into it. We're gonna verify the prices too. The prices are about 2 months old. But so the other good thing about it is if we set them in places and hook them up to electricity, we can actually monitor them back with a computer system that will allow us to say, hey, it's about empty. So,
what will you do? I'm just interested in Peabody's. You got a flood problem. That's one thing down there that.
Well,
you got a flood problem. They're sitting right in the flood district that gets 3 foot
well,
deep before there.
And I guess that I could answer that with, we could figure out what we do. We could raise them off the ground. To what level, I don't know. We have some historical data where it is in the building. It's, you know, we've marked that building both times that it's flooded since I've been here.
Yeah.
So we know what that elevation is. But I'd also like to say is, technically, those are still in the floodplain too. The tanks that are now, if they fall over.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'm just looking to, to what do you want to do though for violations of any safety or anything like that?
Yeah, but as far as that goes, that's why they're double walls, because you have that safety. But the other thing, as far as floating away or whatever else is, we could anchor them down to a concrete. You know, they wouldn't float away or anything like that. But yeah, I mean those are issues we'd have to look at. But like I said, I was trying to figure out a way to just have the bigger tanks and just keep them at Peabody and the South Shop and Durham or whatever else is. But some of these other guys will be driving 10, 12 miles to get fuel. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to look at. Right. But anyway, just to let you know that was something I was looking at. Something else that I've kind of been looking at too is getting a backup generator for the shop. Simply because if we ever have a power outage, you know, like we have in the past, we're totally done. No county fuel, no county work. I mean, you know, we wouldn't be able to run much. But I'd like to make it so that it's not permanent. And the fact is, if we ever build a new shop down the road, then we could just move it over there and tie it in. So out of the quotes I've got were anywhere from like 30 to 80,000, depending on what they were. But
how big you get?
Our choices are either 60 kilowatt or 80 kilowatt. We don't really know for sure exactly what we need because that's going to depend on the circumstance a little bit.
What are you going to run?
Well, the entire shop, you know, the heaters and stuff like that, plus the fuel tanks, because that's probably as big as anything. Is if nobody else has fuel, we have fuel. You know,
fuel is a very big issue when ice storms and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I
mean, especially if you're down for a week or two, the biggest problem we'd have is just getting fuel brought in, but at least we would have fuel that would be available. But again, the problem is, if we're not allowed to work, then we're not getting anything done for the constituents and things like that too. So you put the safety aspect in there, but just looking at that too, to come up with something. So bringing up the next issue, the county has put down the base rock. The landowner did put down the surface rock on for Weebies getting up to the facility. Now the culvert on the way up there is in bad shape, needs to be replaced. I've got a bid for about $52,000 for a new culvert to go in there, which needs to be done. The culvert's on a skew, it's broke out, real narrow, stuff like that. So again, that's part of that. But while we were up there, we added in sections on the corners just to make the turning radius a little bit better, but what about, this is gonna be the same thing we talked about before, what about continual maintenance of a roadway like that to where you have a larger percentage of bigger trucks and things like that going up down than we would any other road? Is there something to do with that? Commercially, you could probably deal with this. But again, we're talking the agriculture or whatever else. Is there some sort of road users group agreement for that? Now, I don't know how that plays in with everybody else, but as many eggs as he's talking about a day, and from what I understand, there's another one looking to go up too. Something to look at, or is it something that's been done that you do informally as a commission or formally or whatever else, just with them directly? I'm sorry, Brad.
No, it's the one we talked about, and I drafted a very simplistic, and it's not going to work, culvert, just one for replacement of culverts, thinking we're taking one out, we're putting one in, or that kind of thing. Very different than the request that Bryce is fielding. Plus, we get the damage issues and some things. I do not have any of that covered in there yet, so it's going to get much longer. And we're getting, what was it, 80 feet?
Well, one of the other things on here was, as far as culverts, I'm getting so many calls anymore that say, hey, I need a new culvert because I can't get my semi in there. I can't get my 40-foot planter in there. And so, it's frustrating that I have to go around trying to put in these culverts. The policy has always been the county puts in a 30-foot culvert. Anything more than that, then they pay for it. I had one last week where they wanted a 60-foot culvert, and I said, well, invoice price for the extra culvert is $60 a foot. Well, I don't own this property, I just rent it, so I don't want to pay that. But if the county was going to do it, it's just fine. So, again, because I've already done, what we try to do is replace the culverts that are bad, if they're broke or whatever else, but these guys say, well, I just can't get in, I need a wider culvert. Well, these culverts were put in probably in the 50s, and they were probably 20 to 24th at most, so that, well, you only had a single axle dump truck at the time, and, yeah. And so now, just catching up with time, but just like updating guardrail across the county, it'd be, I don't know. But anyway, something for you guys to think about. I mean, because the more culverts I put in, the more it takes away from, doing the other stuff.
I'd say if we had a 30-foot policy, we put in a 30-foot culvert, and they want a 60, they pay 30.
Well, I mean, and
the other aspect to look at though is if they're going to drive a semi in and out, anyway, regardless, where's the trailer tires going to hit? They're going to hit and squash the end of your culvert, plug your ditch.
That's the question we also talked about.
Well, and part of that is the fact is that, as you guys know, there's truck drivers and then there's truck drivers.
Yeah.
There's
some people that
There's
can run a stick, and there's some people that can
drive.
drive.
Harvest truck drivers. There's also. But and so I mean, that's the other thing too, is that the other thing is we can, which is an option too, is we can supply them with the culverts, they can put them in themselves. But the problem with that, is we may not get them in the way we want to.
Yeah, we cannot get drainage.
Well, so I mean, that's what
road.
we always look at, is if we put in a culvert, we can go in there with a blade or a dozer or excavator, whatever else, and make sure that we get something out of it, so.
And after we talked, I talked to one guy, we'll leave it nameless, who said, yeah, in terms of that semi thing, said, but you know what that road looks like where I want to put one in. I can't swing out unless I dump it over into the other ditch because it's such a narrow road. Yeah, I understand what it takes to drive in and hit it straight and not jump off of it, but I can't do that even if I want to.
So then, if that's the case, the dirt road isn't wide enough, so now you need to widen the road.
That's exactly what he said.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't need to have this conversation today. I was just curious what your thoughts were. And he said, you've been down that road.
Yeah.
I said, yes.
Literally.
And he said, and I said, we're not going to be able to widen all these roads either. He said, that's my point. He said, I'll get in there as close as I can, but 30 foot won't even come close.
Yeah.
So, and we set a standard. I mean, we can always deviate, although you don't want to too much, but I did this all based on a 30 foot. because that's what we'd always done.
So you'll have something by next week that,
I can give one that's real easy. It goes 30 feet, but I can guarantee it's not going to answer a lot of questions for these guys because I just thought, I'm curious. I'll make that call after we talked, and I had an immediate argument.
yeah. Well, and like I said, that's kind of what we've been going by, but again, now, the other thing you should look at, do we set it up to where, do they pay invoice price or do they pay a flat price? Because the invoice price is just paying for the culvert. Typically, we already have the backhoe stuff out there, but it does take a little bit more time to, but an invoice price for a 24-inch pipe is at $30 or $60 a foot. Well, if we go up with a bigger pipe, we could be pushing $100, $110 a foot, you know. So, do we leave it invoice price or flat price? So, but anyway, it's just something to think about for the future, because the other thing I'm looking at is if I had a lot more help, we could get a lot more of these done. But you know, I have to worry about crossroad pipes that are caving in or whatever else, and those are definitely higher priority than something that that goes down there with no disrespect, that they go in and out of maybe 6-8 times a year, you know, at most. So, but it's still getting them in and out. So, but anyway.
And it isn't, I mean, I have to admit, based on the calls, it isn't something that, you know, for future that you guys are getting pressed on it now all the time.
Yeah.
And I even get an occasional call about it already, about what does the county allow, or what are you legally obligated to do, and all of that. We really need to address it, but the one that I've got isn't going to come close to some of the questions Bryce asked me today.
Yeah. Well, and that's, you know, that's the question is, I asked Brad, I said, what are we legally obligated to provide access? You know, and
it's a generic statement,
yes.
And that's it. And really, we don't have a great deal of statutory obligation. But that doesn't mean that from the citizenry perspective, we don't have some, you know, they're the taxpayers. And how do we best balance that? How do you best balance that?
You gonna pay your taxes this year?
yeah, we will. So anyway, well,
30 foot, stick with 30 foot, commission?
That's what I'd say.
Well,
Anything
we're at,
about
I mean,
it?
that's where we're at.
Yeah, till we come up with something different.
yeah.
Stick with
Well,
30 foot.
and I guess I'd like to, I'd like to say stick with 30 foot if they want more than that,
Dip
it's
in.
the invoice price. But I also want to, and I tell these people this, in no disrespect this, I will not make this a high priority. I've got crossroad pipes and stuff like that have to be fixed, that are on 30 roads that are high speed. You know, we'll get to, like I said, we've really, really hit them hard in the last couple of weeks. We got caught up on quite a few of them, but there's always going to be those out there. So.
Speaking of holes in roads, why, down there in Peabody, there's one, I don't know whether it's been there for quite a while now. We've got a hole 3 foot around it in the
Where's
edge of
that?
the road. Just go down to Potter's, well, not Potter's, curve there, Needle. And go down to Needle, go out south towards south.
Right around the corner?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the Stone Arch Bridge that we need to replace.
Yes,
Yep.
yes, and I think there's 2 holes, one on one side, one on the other
Okay.
now.
Yeah, we've talked about, we need to get a half moon culvert in there, because that's one of the stone arches that's
Okay.
collapsing.
Yeah.
Good. Now, as far as the issue of the extra wear and tear on like the weebies going to that up there, do you guys want to deal with that? You guys want to just have us to keep, because I know that rock is going to take a beating. Because it's what, 70-some thousand eggs a day or whatever it was, it's some crazy amount, so. But
One semi, 2 semis a day.
I don't know how many eggs you can put on a truck, I really don't. But,
A lot of eggs on the system.
well, I don't know if they are gonna be, I don't even think they're all gonna be semis. I would assume they'd have to be some sort of refrigerated truck. Or they're not refrigerated until they get to the
No
box.
housing, no housing up there.
No.
This is just business.
In fact, once we get past the driveway, it's ironic that we put in a long culvert up there on top of the hill, and they're already running off that too. So, but anyway, I guess until something else comes up, we'll just continue to watch that and.
We'll try to monitor that a little bit.
Yeah, so. All right. I received an email from North Central Kansas Technical School, they have career fair dates at Beloit on February 9th and at Hayes February 22nd. Beloit is for all industries and Hayes is for construction and transportation industries. So I guess barring any problem, I'd like to go out there and see if we can't recruit some people. James is a graduate of the program, so I'm gonna see maybe I couldn't take him with me so that he could explain what he's done compared to what he's doing now.
Yeah.
It's just a truck drive. It doesn't cost us anything. It's just time to go out there and do that.
Oh, it's
But-
free?
Huh?
It's free?
Yeah.
Is free.
I'm not the booth spaces.
They're nothing there. They just
Schools get to put it on the resume, how many people they place.
yes.
So, yes.
Look at the school.
And it's on a marketing thing too, to where they say that,
You could
oh, we
meet-
place 95% of our
Yes.
people.
You could meet some people.
Well,
I think it'd be good.
You know, I contacted them. You know, I've been trying to get, especially like mechanics.
We don't
I contacted them.
boards for Beloit,
Yeah.
Northwest Tech,
Yeah.
Salina.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and
Good.
actually, I've contacted all of them trying to
Yeah.
basically get this information. They put me on their email list. I thought, great. So,
Good.
okay. As you probably heard, we were broke into at the South Shop here a couple weeks ago again. I have never seen so much damage on the steel door as what they did between where we park our 1 ton and the regular shop. That steel door, they spent about this much of the bottom of it was bent at a 45-degree angle. I don't know if they kicked it, if they hit it with the sledge, but that's actually trying to break in there. I mean, man, it was crazy. They ended up cutting the lock, got a bunch of chainsaws and things like that. So I actually contacted Lloyd, and he put me in touch with the guy that's getting ready to do the security, or they're looking at the security for the courthouse, and come up with a plan to basically put up monitors and cameras and stuff out there that would be linked back through satellite or through communication to the courthouse. Therefore, it can be linked with the courthouse as well as the jail, so that if anybody does break in, we have pictures of them. And he said, first thing you want to do is deter it. You know, if they see those cameras and those signs, maybe they won't do anything. But this is what, the second or third time it's been hit since I've been here. You know, getting tools or whatever else. That's what I would kind of leery about the fuel too. You never know about that. But if it's setting up there where the cameras are and it's hooked up to electricity, we'll have to worry about it.
You want the stuff that'll go directly to the pawn shop.
Exactly. Yep.
What about trip sensors?
They're gonna have a camera outside, we're gonna have cameras inside, we're gonna have a keypad, or either going with a keypad or they have to call somebody ahead of time to shut the system off. We're looking at all those. The submittal that he had to me was $26,000, which seems like a lot, but yet when you lose $8,000 to $10,000, $12,000 a time, you know. The building would also have a 360-degree camera situation, so it would actually look at the south building as well. You know, we haven't had much problem with that, but there's always that option. Then that way, if it was linked back with here, it'd be the dispatchers would be able to pop it up if anything shows up too. So.
Can you monitor that in your office too?
Yes, it'd be all through cell phones or whatever else, but main thing would be getting back here. Also provides for battery backup for a little bit. And with that, I did talk with the city of Marion. That building is supposed to have the new electricity ran up to it, because sometimes we have problems when it's those lines are pretty old and everything else. So we're going to get new electricity.
Don't get excited about it.
Well, you know,
I've been promised that for 5 years.
Yeah, it's in the works. They finally got the wire after 2 months of delay, I guess. But so anyway, I guess the commission is, or do you have a problem with that? Or the other thing is, I probably am looking at, I need to replace that fiberglass door that's out there on that east part. It's got a hole in the front and it's pretty shaky. They just reached in and that's where they grabbed the chain to get in there. It really needs to have a better. The other doors are I think they're even insulated, but this wouldn't have to be insulated. But, so.
What kind of equipment inside are you storing for? You said
Well,
chainsaws.
We've got the chainsaws, but we've got.
Inside that shaky door, there's a service truck in there.
Yep, that's one thing, and that's where they get most of the tools. They took all the torch stuff. What was funny was they took the torch and the regulator and everything else, but they left the solid or the stranded welding cables. Well, I mean, man, out of all the places, but I guess people are really cracking down on who's taking copper. That's what I've been told, but anyway, that's where they got all the tools. We were fortunate enough to get most of the tools back last time, not all of them, but you just never know what's gonna happen. But we have the water truck stored in there. We have one of our 3/4 ton utility trucks parked in there. DJ parks his motor grader in there. So if they really wanted to cause damage, of course, like you said, they're after the quick stuff, but they did enough damage. You know, that door is probably $2,000 in itself, because it's solid as can be, and I can't believe they spent that much time. So, but anyway, we're looking at that, and obviously can tie it in with the security system here would be even better.
So when it goes off at 3 o'clock in the morning, whose answers?
Well,
What happens?
it would, whatever triggers out there would come back here, would report to the dispatch, just like somebody breaking into here or what, you know, setting off an alarm. And so, or we could set it up to where that's actually automated by their company, that's like a medical alarm or whatever else. They call EMS right away and send somebody going. So
Just so somebody's available to answer.
yes, well, and that's,
Get somebody rolling.
we thought the best thing to do would be to contact dispatch, because they in turn can dispatch a deputy out there. They can also let us know. We will be able to monitor it, just like we talked about here with our phones. So, working on that, policy. Have you, or would you like to talk to him about our meeting last week?
Just real briefly.
Yeah.
We went up to Department of Transportation on Wednesday, made our presentation. Was well received. We had the support of Representative Barker, Senator Wildeberg. Of course, no promises, but it looks good. We're doing this two-pronged, which that it hit all the bells and whistles for them because it's a partnership deal. So the federals under the HRRR program for 6 miles, the state for 8.5. They're thinking they're going to have more infrastructure money, be the spring round of cost share.
I believe so.
That's when we would put in the application for the 8.5 miles, and their cap should be higher at that time. So all looks good, but she spent a full half hour with us, very receptive. Of course, that's what you expect.
Yeah. Well, and I think, well, to add on to what she was not only excited about it is that the amount of money that the county is willing to bring it to, because that's like everything else. They're trying to get their money to go as far as they can.
So there really was 3 big takeaways from it on future applications. The first one is the partnerships. That really checked the boxes for them on success of getting grant money. Second was the county upping their share of participation. So that leverages their dollars, they're more likely to approve it. And the last one was the community support, because we had all the letters. She even kind of helped us a little bit on who you want letters from. Form letters, forget it.
Yep.
She literally sits through and reads every, not the secretary, but her person.
Yeah.
So it makes it, form letters, we kind of go,
Fill
individual letters.
Yeah.
And so we have a little more guidance on how we can guide that process to increase our chance of success in the future. But it sounds like this has got very good possibility. But we would be looking at 2023 construction.
Yeah. The lady that actually administers the project, or that all those processes was there.
Yes.
I've talked to her numerous times, we've emailed numerous times, we actually got to meet each other. And, you know, she was excited about it too. The other thing was, we were talking about the Father Capon thing and everything else, and she says, she goes, I haven't really checked into that, but I'm going to check into that. And I said, well, we look at the fact is that Marion County is trying to show that we're trying to draw that here as compared to Wichita, and I think she liked that.
It's regional and state.
Yeah.
It has an impact on the state.
Yeah.
And the region. We're not just talking about Marion County, and that's why we're asking for some help from us. So anyway, it was well received.
Yeah. Good. So, I think that's it there. Okay, unless you guys had anything.
Oh, the bridge, 250th, 50, just west of 56.
Is that the one Carl reported?
Yeah, Carl Snowball.
Oh, yes. The bridge at 250th west of 77, about a half mile. I've looked at it twice now. What has happened is those are pre-stressed T's, and they've got basically two legs go down, and they've got a flat thing over the top of them. They're what they call a double. It's got a flat with 2 pieces going down that sits on the abutment, two, all the way across. Whatever's happened, and I don't know what happened, is when those got put together, if they had a mechanical splice or they were welded, somehow that's broke loose. And so this one has popped up a little bit. No, absolutely no problem, structural integrity, it will not collapse. I actually talked to a bridge contractor and asked for his guidance to go and look at it. But I think what we can do is to see if we can't push it down to get it down to where it was, and then see if maybe we could weld some plates in there. I don't know for sure how we did it, because we gotta make sure is when we pull it down to get this side done, that we don't cause this action and try to break it or whatever else. But 99% confident there's absolutely no problem whatsoever. There's no cracks in the pre-stressed members or anything else. It's just a matter as those have separated about 1 inch to 2 inches. And so that's what's caused the crack all the way along the bridge. So again, extremely confident nothing is going to happen. And when we figure out a plan of attack, then we'll go out there and do that. Because right now it has, what you're looking at is just a crack of the asphalt that's over the top of the bridge. So, but, you know, I know people have worried about it, and I said, you know, I went out and looked at it. They just made commission available. That's one thing I definitely concentrate on bridges, but I'm not worried about this at all. So,
is there any testing we need to do at all
on that bridge? I don't know what it would be.
Okay.
Now, that road used to be paved, and I think that's probably why that bridge has the asphalt going across the top of it. I don't know. I don't know when that road was turned back to rock, but I'm sure it was a while back. But that asphalt was just left on top of there. So, but the asphalt does allow it to move a little bit too. So,
thank you for looking at it.
Yeah.
There was also those 2 culverts that Jonah mentioned.
Yeah.
That same day.
I spoke with Bryce later on. We were able to talk about 2 culverts on 230th.
Okay, gotcha. We're trying to get to them.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
Not right now, unless the commission has something.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Bryce.
Oh, before I leave, I would like to say thank you for your understanding and stuff in the last couple months with my wife and mother-in-law and all the other stuff that's going on with it. But I think you got my wife home doing better every day, and of course finally got the mother-in-law taken care of. So, but I'd like to say thank you. All right.
Lloyd Davies will be here with technology security briefing, and we'll probably have to go in executive session for that. Good afternoon, Lloyd.
Hello, everyone. How are you? Good. Science meeting.
Tell us everything you need to tell us in open session.
I have a couple things I want to discuss.
I think that we are going to do this executive session for security. And then if there's anything that needs to be shared and open, that can be done.
That's probably the best way to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Accidentally step on your tongue.
Okay, so if we get in anything that needs to be public, we will talk about it.
Yeah.
Come out, okay?
That's fine.
I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss county technology systems and cybersecurity pursuant to KSA 75-4319B with the board and Brad and Tina and Lloyd. For how long, Lloyd, do you think you need?
15 minutes.
15, okay. For 15 minutes for matters related to security measures. 15 minutes be 2:40.
3 o'clock.
And 2:47 to 3:02. Second by Jonah.
Second.
He's holding his 2 hands up and his 2 fingers up. All those in favor of that say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
The day of the
Day of the week.
I was surprised at how well the electricals held up. I mean, we stayed up, except for a couple of hard hits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not residential.
This conference will now be recorded.
That was the main things I had for.
Out of executive sessions, no decisions. And Lloyd, thank you for bringing that to us. We'll, let's hope there's no more bad storm clouds.
Yeah, no, it's true. We can do it now.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Hey, I did this.
Thank you. Moving on, looks like we've got executive session personnel. Is this person?
I put it on.
Okay.
Yes. It's for personal performance, not elected personnel.
Okay. What kind of time frame are we looking at?
I think probably 15 minutes.
Okay, before we could do that one, should we make the decisions on those color deals?
Sure.
Yeah, take a break there.
They're divided into categories there, I believe. I haven't looked. If you could do it and not look at the backs, that would be good, because I think that's where yeah, so just the fronts.
Do we have a
And
point
there-
system with categories and
What's the
rankings?
grand
There's a
prize?
detailed
So-
rubric that you're
yeah,
gonna
here.
send
That's what I'm
Yeah,
looking
ages
for.
0 to 6 are in this clip. And then we have 7 to 12 and 13 at plus, which includes adults. So you
But
just
they're
need to,
all, we're looking for number one out of all of them?
yes, out of each category.
3 categories.
3 categories. Okay.
So I would just maybe do one category
We're gonna
with.
pass that category on now.
What's the grand prize?
Put that in or something.
I think that each
Brad's
category,
The one that's parked there.
it's a fancy car. No, just kidding.
In the hedgerows.
The
Okay,
95
this was the
Buick.
section itself. that was
Yes,
put
that's the
together.
section itself, yes.
Oh, okay. These are 13 to adult.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So
Go ahead and
I'll,
pick this
I'll
one.
look at them and pass them down.
Category.
Yeah. It's
Nine
number
mouse
one
are
there.
looking
It's
at
number
them.
one.
There
Okay.
we go. Just sitting right here.
I believe the prize for each category is, it's $10, or it's either cash or a gift card or something, I can't remember exactly. But I know the amount.
This,
Yeah.
what you got?
A
You got
bunch of
spread out.
13 to adults here.
I know, that was the majority of the participants.
Okay.
Is that all the clerk's office?
No,
It's-
no.
There's,
You got a second?
there's a group. Pass on.
This is the group that wins by itself.
Wins by itself, okay.
Right there. You can announce that one, I think.
That one's good, but that one's got the most work done to it.
Anyone else have one? Oh, what was this saying? Oh. I'm sticking with this.
Should we just pick a first place?
Yes.
Okay.
What do you think?
I'd go with that one.
All right. Are you okay?
Yep.
Because they even have the sun in there.
That's right.
I'd have forgot to put that in.
That one,
Yeah.
that one, for
They
that.
put a turbine in the background.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a little stars.
We'll let them pick one. We'll pick
Yeah.
one.
Okay, sounds good.
We got the winner here.
You got the
Okay.
winner over there?
Yep.
That one?
Okay. Got 3 winners here.
This is the winner we went with here.
Brad's gotta get some new wheels.
It's kinda quick, wasn't it?
Oh,
Ages 7 to 12.
okay.
So we went with this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very nice.
There's only 1 entry in 7 to 12. That's a first place winner. You name them now?
Yeah.
Okay. Madeline, age 8. Employee name and department, Travis Parma, EMS.
Okay.
The winner of the 0 to 6 is named Hunton. Hunter?
Hunted.
Hunton.
Hunton?
Hunton, okay. Employee name, Ashley Herpich, clerk. So there's a winner there. And then the age 13 to adult. We allowed adults to do that.
I
Yes.
submitted mine.
You did not.
Michelle is the name, age 36. Michelle Looper, clerk.
Okay, so do we frame them and put them in the
Hey,
hallway?
that's a great idea. I think I'll post them up
They
somewhere.
should
Maybe
be
post
up
it.
all year
Okay.
round.
Yeah. So in July,
Cool.
you can see.
You know you're probably causing rivalry in my office right though by,
How's come we didn't get this far?
we offered.
Did they do it on the job?
Should be a separate category.
Was this on the
Oh,
road?
you know, you
I
guys
wouldn't
still
even
could
pass
do
the
it.
0 to 6 drop.
I declined it. If there's any chance you could possibly win anything,
I think
You
that
know it was rigged,
the
so
commission
no.
should just do it for bragging rights, and then we get the employees pick the winner.
I think that's a good idea.
Whoever wins has great treats.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't have enough patience to color,
Yeah, if you
honestly.
win, you.
Okay.
What kind of time frame, Tina?
15 minutes.
15 minutes? I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss personnel matters of non-elected personnel with the board and Brad and Tina pursuant to KSA 75-4319B for 15 minutes.
To discuss performance.
Yeah, purpose to discuss performance, personnel performance, right?
Yeah.
And for 15 minutes, that will have a second by Jonah. And it'll be from 3:10 to 3:25, 15 minutes. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
This conference will now be recorded.
Out of executive session, no decisions. I do have a salary sheet for our new director, Krista Schneider, and that will be at $6,933 a month, effective 12/20/21. The reason is the new health department director, public health officer, at $663 a month for health department, and $300 a month for bioterrorism FEP grant, with 2 weeks vacation immediately, then accrued as usual, 1 year, 1 week, with a $1 an hour equivalent granted at the end of each of the first and second year of employment with satisfactory performance. So that's just a payroll sheet.
Yeah. And that's no action taken. I mean, that's based on a previous action.
Yeah.
That's just doing the official paperwork for the new person.
Like a quick 5-minute, 3 or 5 minute personnel for executive session for personnel performance. With the board. And Tina and Brad. Just a quick 5 minutes.
Second.
Second with Jonah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
5-0. So there for 5 minutes. Yeah. Just figured out that they didn't do it.
This conference will now be recorded.
No decisions out of executive sessions. There is one thing that's been mentioned that before we go any farther that probably I should have put on the agenda, that just to mention it to the commission is, you know, we've seen the wildfires due to the wind and stuff, and I guess we're predicted to get wind towards the end of the week again through Christmas, maybe after that. And there is some concern from the local people, farmers out in the area of how dry it is, and no mention of a burn ban. You got the red flag warning, and that's what all fire departments want to go off of, and that's, but I think the drought here of 45 days or so, I don't know if we're approaching 40 some days or so, does the commission feel that we maybe need to ask the fire chiefs if they'd like to put a burn ban on? To work with them and ask them? I don't know whether, you know, I'm just,
I spoke with Matt.
oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah. He gave me a link on what they go by. So basically this was a 7-day forecast, and then they go by this indice.
Yes. Heat, yeah.
So right now, it's a low to moderate, and tomorrow it'll be high. And so then the dispatch will put the ban on for certain hours of tomorrow, and then they'll remove it. And then it'll be the 22nd, 23rd, it shouldn't be there, but the 24th, there should be a burn.
Okay.
But, to me, and I don't know, you tell me, Randy, but I think, and I told Matt this, I said, well, if we know and we can predict in the holidays coming, would it be something that we would want to put a burn ban on, just, on the
Till next Monday.
the 23rd or the 22nd?
For the date, from the 20 to the 27th. Revisit again on the 27th.
Actually, I'd say the fire departments have their system in place. Why don't we let the fire departments use their system? I know up north, we're gonna have mountains of trees to burn. I've already been doing some burning of brush. I'm gonna have a lot more. So if there's a day or two in between, we can get rid of some of it. There's gonna be a lot of brush piles.
No doubt, due to the storm,
Right.
Dave, is what you're talking about.
Right. So I'm saying, before you burn, you call in, they tell if you can burn or not. You don't burn.
I'd agree with that. I'd like to, I mean, they have the tools in front of them.
Yep.
If they
Rather than
if we,
just
you
a
know,
blanket.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was just trying
They
to
have
think,
their system, let them use their system.
if we could prevent them from having to be out on Christmas.
Right.
By
But I know in the
putting
past,
it out a day ahead.
in the past, we have put a burn ban on, and they weren't real pleased with us.
No, that's true. That's very true. And I understand
We're
that.
messing in the sandbox, huh?
And I just think that we're concerned about general safety and that, and they are too. They're in their ways, but, it's.
The dispatch is pretty good about watching
yes.
the wind, and if it's
Yeah, I've been
a
very
mile or
pleased.
two over, they won't let you burn.
I've been very pleased when I call in, they let you know.
Yeah. Okay. All right, that was the last thing that I had.
Tell
Just
the
wanted to
public
mention
to
that.
use common sense.
Yeah, okay. So.
What's that?
Got a public
That's my campaign.
forum to go through. Brad, you have anything?
Nothing we haven't already covered today.
Okay. Tina, final before? Public forum, anybody online?
I don't see any microphones.
And nobody in the building, nobody in the room. So commission comments. Any commissioners got a comment?
I'd just like to encourage the public, our brothers and sisters out in western Kansas suffered some horrendous losses, and those counties are not a whole lot different than us. Could have happened to us. Their needs are great. I mean, you can go out anywhere on the internet and see what they need. I would encourage public to try to help in any way you can. Some of those people may never recover, but it's going to take them years. Right now, we talked to a friend out of Plainville, and she said right now, electric fencing and water tanks with heavy-duty hose are probably going to be the most important thing until they can get to spring, to where they can look and see what am I going to have to rebuild.
People are already.
Yeah. And I do.
Hay.
Yeah, and I do realize there'll be some government payments coming, but when you've got a stock cow herd, Dave knows that. You don't rebuild a stock cow herd just by going to the sale barn and start buying.
Right. There are some conduits in place. Obviously, a number of church organizations are working to get financial or material help. Kansas Livestock Association, Kansas Farm Bureau. We've got a lot of ag organizations that a lot of our ag members are members of.
Yeah.
And
Right.
they know how to get them. I'm sure there's already semis on the way out there.
Right.
But every little bit will help.
Yeah.
Land to put the cattle outside of the area because everything's burnt.
Yeah.
They're actually looking for.
There's probably going to be looking for stocks and things like that. And if somebody has some extra, that they can provide water. I know I've had relatives that have had to move cows from western Kansas to Colorado to keep the herd together, so it happens.
Definitely one.
Just encouragement.
No, it's one of the biggest wildfires nobody knows about.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see how all the other ones on the news 24/7.
Yeah.
Nobody talked about us.
400 square miles.
It didn't last very long. It was quick.
Any other commission comments? Hearing none, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Jonah. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0.
Gina, I'm gonna grab the second.
You need a list of things to